Kids across the country are struggling to read. LAUSD tried to tackle this problem with a hugely successful program known as Primary Promise. However, former Superintendent Austin Beutner, who launched that program, says now the district wants to end it, and he believes that would be a grave mistake. Did you know more than half of U.S. students cannot read at grade level?
It's what's for dinner.
But 9-year-old Gray's mother says her son's future is brighter thanks to Primary Promise.
8 artichokes for dinner.
His confidence really skyrocketed, and he needed that boost because he'd been struggling.
Primary Promise is a widely loved LA Unified program. Specially trained teachers give daily individualized reading and math instruction to the K-3 kids who are struggling most.
The guy meant like a lot to me. I felt pretty proud when I finished it.
Student growth has been amazing. To watch children go from non-readers to readers in a year.
Teacher Marcy Edge says more than 90% of her kids saw major improvement through the science of reading approach that's recently swept the nation. That's why she was shocked to learn her role would be discontinued.
It's very tearful to go, very hard.
It's been nearly 2 years since you've been superintendent. Why are you choosing to speak out on this now?
When you think about the 20,000 plus families who've had kids in the program who haven't even been notified, their voices need to be heard.
You didn't hear about the cutting of this program from this district?
No.
Former LAUSD Superintendent Austin Beutner launched Primary Promise 3 years ago.
As an effort to tackle what I think is the holy grail in public education, early literacy. It is the single most important thing we do for children.
He says his successor, Alberto Carvalho, is dismantling Primary Promise, drawing ire from LA's largest parent-led group.
Keep a program that works.
Parent and teacher Pamela Cohen says kids like her son, who's dyslexic, need early intervention.
These cuts are happening at the peril of our students.
Carvalho citing budget concerns since Primary Promise's $134 million price tag was funded by one-time federal COVID dollars.
The entirety of the funding assigned to Primary Promise sunsets September of 2024.
This is well less than 1% of LA Unified's budget. The school district continues to invest in so-called acceleration days, where some students come for an extra day of school. Those cost more. There have been no reported results, even for attendance.
We are protecting a best practice, but it keeps being portrayed as dismantling.
Superintendent Carvalho insists he has an evolved plan. He wants classroom teachers to do what Primary Promise teachers did in small groups in their big classrooms.
Under Primary Promise, the model was pull out a small group of students to a quiet, protected space where you can do really targeted work with the kids.
Instead of the more than 300 elementary schools reached through Primary Promise, the district says the new model focuses on 160 schools identified as the highest need, will serve middle school students as well, and cost less at $100 million.
Most of the schools that are in that school list are schools that serve mostly Black students. And so having this more hyper focus on those students in that population makes sense to me.
Dr. Alicia Montgomery, described as a lifelong educator, signed her support along with these groups for Carvalho's plan. There was some talk around whether or not Primary Promise is equitable.
When more English learners are learning to read, when more Black students are learning to read, that is way overdue, and let's call it righteous.
The school board can steer what happens next. Board member Tanya Ortiz-Franklin told me some tough budget decisions will have to be made.
There are parts of programs that are working across the district, and we constantly need to be assessing what's working for whom and what are we giving up by investing in one area and not another.
Maybe you need both and. You need to keep Primary Promise going and find the funds to make sure that you can help children who are struggling in middle school and high school.
The district denied a request to interview Superintendent Carvalho. We should note at the end of last week's board meeting, he made a reference to the idea there could be more funds available. We'll see if and how that will impact this ongoing debate at Tuesday's board meeting this coming Tuesday, which is also when the board is slated to vote on next year's budget. So a lot still to come.